This podcast is edited and produced by Buford Digital Productions. Visit their website to see what they can do for you for today.
The wandering path. The wandering path.
Welcome to the Wandering Path podcast, a sanctuary for the modern seeker and a dedicated practitioner. Here we believe that magic isn't just found at the destination, it's woven into every step of the journey. Whether you're here for the wisdom of tarot, the pull of the moon, or the whispers of the stars, you found your seat at the table. I'm your host, Adonis Youngblood, and today we're stepping back onto the path to explore what it truly means to live a life of magic. I love this statement I saw on Instagram the other day as I was doom scrolling as usual. This statement saying, I love it when witches get together because then shit gets done and correctly. When politicians get together, they create shit and destroy people. And that's why we need good witches. I kind of want to fully agree with all of this. But again, everyone is entitled to their own statement, to their own opinion, and I support that fully. But not all politicians are evil, just like not all witches are evil. So, today we are exploring the fascinating topic of what is witchcraft? What is it truly? What does it mean for you as someone that practices in the craft? Or what does it mean to your partner, to a parent, or to a child, a sibling, brothers, sisters, whoever? It's your own opinion of what it means to you. But if we go according to what not the internet says, but what a bunch of different people have to say about witchcraft. Looking into the history of witchcraft, we see that it is a complex tapestry that shifts from ancient artifacts to ancient spiritual practices and rituals to legal prosecutions to more modern resolutions. It is a story of how societies define and describe the word witch and witchcraft and those who practice it, and how we seek power and or a connection through the universe and mother nature. Magic is a tool in ancient civilizations. The line between religion and magic was and still feels a bit too blurry. Magic was only considered helpful if it could help the government, state, or the royalty, or the 1% of the 1% throughout history, and feared and destroyed if it was used for private and improving the standard life of those not mentioned from above. In Mesopotamia and Egypt, spells and amulets were used for protection against demons and illness. In Greece and Rome, low magic was distinguished from high and divine magic. Figures like Hecate, goddess of the crossroads, and Circe, the enchantress, established the early archetype of the witch as powerful and often dangerous woman. In Christian Bible, cited from the verse of Exodus 22 verse 18, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. And later this would be the cornerstone of legal and inquired foundation of European prosecutions. Later the word witch was changed to poisoner or malevolent sorcerer, kind of going and saying, oops, sorry, my mistake. The Middle Ages. For much of the early Middle Ages, the Catholic Church actually dismissed witchcraft as a pagan superstition. believing a person who saw a woman on a broom flying at night to be considered delusional. However, in the 13th and 14th century, the prosecution shifted. Theologians began to argue that magic was only possible through a pact with the devil. You cannot see me making air quotes in the air, but if you hear me making a weird tone, then you know I'm using my explanation points in the middle of the air to just pronounce the amount of silliness behind it all. But diving into the research that went into finding out about the history, we really start to realize why people were thinking the way they were thinking. And unfortunately, we cannot run any excuses because this is something that has happened 100 plus, actually 500, 600 years ago. But still, we have the effect. The effect is still present in our modern day society. Now, getting back to what the theory was, that the pact with the devil, originally stating to rule out the possibility by using an Inquisition's method. This was torture and the secret testimony. The Great Witch Craze from 1450 to 750. To prove the popular belief out, the burning times did not happen in the Dark Ages, but during the Renaissance and the Reformation period. The best-selling book at the time was written by Heinrich Kramer and was called The Hammer of the Witches. It became a bestseller at the time because it drilled this idea into people's mind, saying that women were more prone to the devil's due, to do the devil's due, because of their intellectual and moral weakness. Talk about going on your own theories and own ideas. But in the social political climate, wars, the Black Death, and religious reformation created an area of fear, which just became the convenient scapegoat for any government, human, environmental failures, and diseases. The side effects were estimated by the historians that between 40,000 and 60,000 people were executed. Approximately 75 to 80% were women. In places like Iceland and Russia, the majority accused were men. We will be diving into that section a little bit later in the podcast, so stick around to the end to hear what happened to those particular men during those times. Visiting Salem, 1692, colonial America, the Salem witch trials resulted into 20 executions fueled by isolation, religious extremeness, and land disputes. Again, sorry, my mistake. But this was ridiculous. It was a ridiculous time to be alive because how do you prove that you are not a witch? You can say you're not a witch, you can have proof. But if there is this idea that has been placed into someone's head, in particularly in that time, and if you were a white man during that time, if you had an idea in your head, you were running with it. Even if you knew you were wrong, you wouldn't go out of your way and say, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Let's try to fix this. And still to this day, there's a kind of reminder that is constantly popping up, which is unfortunate, but we are making progress, as you will hear later in this podcast. The Enlightenment and discrimination. By the 1700s, the rise of scientific method and rationalism led to the decline of witch trials. The legal reform. England repealed its Witchcraft Act in 1735, making it a crime to claim someone had magical powers rather than a crime to be a witch. The romance behind it all, in the 1800s, the word witch began to be reimagined in literature as a figure of rebellion, nature, and feminine independence. Next question that I asked myself when I was talking about what is witchcraft? What does it feel to be a modern witch with witch talk, Instagram, Tumblr, Pinterest, Reddit, all of this? Personal story. I tried to advertise this podcast on Reddit. I added it to 7 different Reddit subtext, so I'm not really familiar with the whole platform of Reddit. And from these 8 platforms that I tried to spread the word of this podcast that's all about spirituality, witchcraft, and following the path to enlightenment, I could only post on one subreddit about this podcast. The other one was saying I was forcing my beliefs down onto the people of this particular subreddit. I'm not gonna say names because I can't even remember which one it was. But I felt it was truly ridiculous. This is ridiculous, honestly. And there are, in my personal opinion, way better platforms to kind of spread a message, aka TikTok, Instagram, and I have listened to other witches and other spiritualists' opinions about those platforms, and I agree to some point. But for me, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, all of those platforms has been really been kind to me. So I will be continuing to be kind to them. So, getting back to the topic of what it feels to be a modern witch in modern times. Modern witchcraft taking place during the 20th century to the present time. Modern witchcraft moved from making deals with the devil, air quotation marks, to a religious and sacred movement. Gerald Gardner published in 1954 Witchcraft Today, claiming to have discovered a surviving old religion leading to the birth of the Wiccan, a nature based neo pagan religion. A second wave of feminism from the 1960s to 70s, the witch became a symbol of female empowerment and resistance against the patriarchy. Witchcraft has become this umbrella term of diversity. Wicca, a religious following of the Wiccan Rite, traditional witchcraft focusing on local folklore and historical practices. Chaos magic focusing on the psychological and manifestation aspect of ritual without a specific deity. So we really can see how witchcraft has grown over the years and the amount of sacrifices that we all went through in some point in our lives or in some version of our life or some of our lifetimes, that the sacrifices that we had to go through to get to this point where you can go grab your phone and talk to a community of people with like-minded ideas and who are willing to share and to understand the different aspects of spirituality, your craft, and forming a connection and making bonds. That is what the modern day witch feels like. And this is my feeling as well, is I feel blessed to be in this time. Yes, we are not where we want to be yet, but the progress that we are making, that all of us are having an effort in making, is truly the pinnacle of what it means to be a modern day witch. Now, with witches, there has always been stereotypes. And these are really stereotypes that I don't support. The stereotype of witches having evolved over the millennia, often reflecting the specific fears, prejudice, and social anxiety of the times. While modern media has softened and some of these tropes, many originated from dark periods of history or folklore. The physical crone archetype, the most pervasive image of a witch, is from the movie Wizard of Oz. Green skin with a hooked nose and a wart. This is a product of the 19th century folklore and 20th century cinema. The nose and warts, those were historically meant to signify moral rot, or the physical deformation, which was often equated to the internal evil in early modern Europe. The point is that the origin is debated, but it may stem from the Judenhut or Jewish hat because of the marginalization of certain groups in Europe. It was easy to compare apples with lemons, and that was what historians have collected, and I have summarized it as comparing apples with lemons. If you think something is bad, you will compare it to something that historical or society feels is bad. But it doesn't necessarily mean you can compare lemons with apples. Again, witches are often depicted as elderly women. This comes from the fear of being unproductive or an independent woman who lived outside the traditional family structures. Basically, women were just good enough to make sons for men, and if you couldn't do that, burn the bitch. I mean, burn the witch. Again, sorry, my mistake. That was the conclusion that so many of this prim and proper, I'm doing the world the justice type of men came to be. Tools of the trade. Many witch tools are actually reprocessed domestic items, highlighting how witchcraft was historically framed as a corruption of the female domestic sphere. A perfect example of this is the broomstick. While now associated with flying, was a symbol of domestication. During the witch trials, it was theorized that witches used flying ointments on broom handles, leading to the myth of air travel. The cauldron, traditionally a standard cooking vessel in every home, became sinister when associated with the brewing of poisons or unholy concoctions rather than family meals. The black cat theory. I truly believe that if a black cat crosses your path, it's not bad luck for you, it's bad luck for the poor cat. Because of if a black cat crosses your road, you're crossing a witch. So let's burn this cat as well. The cat didn't do anything to you. It was just easy to do it if you just said it was evil or it wasn't a part of your standards. So living to that theory, that is something I truly believed happened in those days. And other animals like toads and owls were considered a gift from the devil to assist the witch in her work. The behavioral stereotypes. Those tropes often focus on perceived antisocial or anti religious nature of witches. Again, a deal with the devil is a byproduct of the Great Witch Craze. This stereotype suggests that witches' power isn't inherited or gifted, but borrowed, air quotation marks, from a malevolent entity in exchange for their souls. Again, if your soul is really put into a scale of what it is worth, did they really think that we are borrowing our powers and abilities, that we asked for it in the first place? If you know you are going to be burned at the stake for just sweeping your floors a little bit too much or cooking up delicious food and one person got sick of it, then no one would have done anything. But we cannot just stand still and not let anything past this theory of a stereotype. Covens, while modern covens are simply groups of practitioners, the origin comes from a satanic Sabbath, a paranoid fantasy where witches gather to plot the downfall of a government, a king, or any army, and so on and so on. Curses and hexes, the belief that witches only use their powers to harm, spoiling milk, causing illness, or destroying crops. This made the witch a convenient scapegoat for natural disasters or medical mysteries. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about, the male witch stereotype. A common stereotype is that all witches are women. While women were the primary targets in Western Europe, in regions like Russia, Iceland, and Estonia, the majority of people accused and executed for witchcraft were actually men. Today, many men identify as witches, though the term warlock is often avoided because of the origin of the word meaning oath breaker. In constructed circles, many men and non binary individuals identify as witches. They often find that the path offers a unique way to explore spirituality and inner work that doesn't rely on a rigid structure found in more traditional institutions. My personal opinion is please never ever call me a warlock because I do feel I have a stronger connection to my feminine side than my muscular side, and which is just makes me feel more powerful and grounded. Now, another favorite topic that so many people on Witch Talk and on Instagram and YouTube like to discuss is how to know if you are a witch. The simple answer is it's never as straightforward as taking a test to see if you will pass or if you will fail. Whether someone identifies as a witch today is usually less about finding out and more about a personal choice to embrace a specific lifestyle or a spiritual path. In modern day practices, being a witch is often defined by a deep connection to nature, an interest in the unseen, and belief in a personal agency. A deep connection to nature. Modern witchcraft is frequently earth based. You might find yourself feeling physically or emotionally attracted to the phases of the moon or the changing of seasons. Having an intuitive green thumb or a fascination with medical and symbolic properties of herbs and plants, or the sensation of feeling more at home near the ocean or forest area rather than a crowded city. Intuition or sensitivity. Many people come to witchcraft because they experience the world with a high degree of sensitivity, empathy, or being able to read a room instantly, or feeling the emotions of others as if they were your own. That gut feeling is like having a strong intuitive hint or knowing without knowing how you know. Synchronicity, having a frequent, meaningful coincidence, like seeing recurring numbers, sequences, or thinking of someone right before they contact you. Having a fascination with ritual and symbolism. Witchcraft often involves the use of physical objects to focus intention. You might find yourself collecting little treasures from nature like stones, feathers, and interesting pieces of wood. Currently, on my table, as I'm doing this podcast, I can't help but smile, but I have this weird shaped stick. I think four different pieces of rock and pieces of trees that has been cut down or I have just found laying around. This is just like a few things that are just on my table at this current point. Finding comfort in lighting a candle and just sitting with your thoughts or staring into the flames, solving a majority of your mental or emotional problems. Feeling drawn to astrology, reading art in the form of tarot, and having a desire for personal autonomy. History teaches us that witches is a figure who stands outside the traditional structure of power, valuing self resilience, liking to challenge the status quo of society and the rules, and having a strong belief that intention and focus can manifest real world changes. Those are just like a few examples, but it's never if you have 3 out of the 10, then you are a witch, or if you have 9 out of 10, then only you are considered a witch. A witch is a person, in my okay, this is my personal opinion. A witch is someone that has a strong connection with their intuition, that gut feeling, and sees things that other people do not want to see or do not want to believe. It's believing in fairies from a young child into your adult life, believing that nothing just happens because this or that. There is things that are controlling, and having the ability to really manipulate the I don't want to say manipulate the universe, but manipulate a situation so that it counts in your favor without doing damage to someone else. That is my personal path to witchcraft, and craft happened because of dreams that I were having. Since I was a child, I was dreaming about the future, dreaming complex things about the future that I couldn't possibly know. And 2, 3 years later, it was just like a blimp happening in my mind. And then I realized, oh, I was living this before, and having those constant dreams. 90% of my dreams were like this. And now sitting and listening to someone and thinking, boy, this person, this is what is going to happen to this person. And then 7 months later, it's not that you manifested it or you wanted this person to have an accident, but you just knew that was going to happen. And how do you explain it to that person? They will think you're batshit crazy, and then just move on and move away, far away from you. So it's quite isolation that you have to go through. But when you find your people, your community, your own coven, then you truly know what it means to belong. This podcast is presented and edited by Buford Digital Productions. I hope you enjoyed listening to this podcast, and thank you for taking the time. And as always, have a wonderful and a blessed day.